So it looks like we're going to talk about Dune 2 for a second time because there seemed to be a lot of confusion in my original review. I will start out by saying I'm still trying to find my footing when it comes to reviewing movies, so please bear with me. I am kind of having a hard time trying to express what I want to say when it comes to reviewing movies. I also want to thank the handful of people that commented on my original review for wanting to have a mature conversation on our opposing thoughts and viewpoints on the movie. There was a large majority that just were keyboard warriors that wanted to throw hate because they didn't like my viewpoint, and that is just, it's just immature and childish, and I'm sorry there's so many of you out there like that. But again, for those who weren't, thank you so much. We all have likes and dislikes that are going to be different. That's what makes us individuals, and we can just talk about it. Now, for Dune 2, I need to preface by saying I didn't read the books. I don't know anything about the source material, and I'm strictly going at this as a casual moviegoer. Now, I am not sure whether or not that is a detriment to seeing the movie. Is that going to change the way I see a character? Should I have read the books first? I don't know. Maybe I should. But as someone who's just casually going to see this movie out of just interest of everyone else, I found it to be boring. I've said that before. I'm sticking with it. It didn't grab me. It's not something that spoke to me, and I just thought it was boring. That is not to say I think the movie's bad, because it's not. I don't think the movie's bad. I just don't think I'm the target audience. I think the cinematics and the visuals were absolutely stunning. I think they were so well done. For that alone, I'm sure it's going to get awards left and right at the end of the year or whatever, because it is that good. I thought there were also some pretty cool action scenes. The fight at the end was really cool, but it didn't offset everything else in the movie. For being 2.5 hours and the handful of things I could pick out that interest me, it just wasn't worth it. Now, I know that's a huge difference of opinion from the majority of the people who've seen this movie who think it's fantastic, and that's great. I'm glad you enjoyed it. But I found the pacing to be off. It was up and down. It was a roller coaster. It was very slow at first, and then it would start to pick up, and I was like starting to really get into what could possibly be going on, and then it seemed to drop off, and then it would pick up again, and it would drop off, and it just seemed awkward. Now, I also thought it was kind of hit or miss with the characters as well. Take Zendaya, for instance. I thought her character was phenomenal. I thought she played this character with lots of passion, lots of emotion. I was completely invested in her story. I was very convinced of all the stuff that she was going through and that it truly hurt her and that she really wanted to make a difference and all this. But then we had Timothee Chalamet, who I admittedly am not crazy about to begin with, so in that way I'm a little biased. But there were times where he was on screen with Zendaya, and he was great. And I thought the chemistry between those two were fantastic. But when they separated and he had to do a scene without her, it didn't seem the same. It just didn't feel like his heart was in it the way Zendaya's was. You know, so together, maybe he was feeding off of her, but separate, I didn't like who he was. Now, that not to say that that didn't change from scene to scene or situation to situation, but it was inconsistent with his character. At least that's just how I took it. I don't know if that's how the character was meant to be. That's a possibility. But I just found it a little odd. Now, one character I was very excited for was Christopher Walken, and I was actually very let down with that. I like Christopher Walken. I'm a big fan of his, and I love the way he plays bad guys and villains, and with him playing the Emperor, who was supposed to be this big bad guy, I wasn't intimidated at all. For what I interpreted to be an intimidating Emperor, he wasn't. He spoke a lot softer than I thought he would. He wasn't very aggressive in a way that I expected, so to me, that was a character that was a letdown. But then there was the saving grace in Austin Butler's character, Fade Rotham. I'm not sure how to pronounce that name, so I'm sure I'll get crucified in the comments for that one too. But this guy, that's a villain. This guy he just came across as a complete psychopath. He will literally kill anyone just to see if his blade is sharp. So that was awesome. I loved seeing his character. He was the saving grace for me. Again, it's a shame we had to go through more than 2/3 of the movie to get to him. I was just like, why couldn't I have had this guy much earlier on? And I might have thought this whole movie would have been different. But he added the element to this movie, the element of excitement and danger that I wanted to see more of, or at least him opposing the good guys, something that would just give a better balance. That's the word I'm looking for, balance. I don't know that the movie was very well balanced for me. But he definitely made that fight scene incredible. Him and Timothee Chalamet's character at the end were gold. Just the one time I thought Timothee Chalamet shined in this movie was the end. That end, the last 20 minutes of this film was the best acting I've seen from him the whole movie. Now, unfortunately, as I stated earlier, the rest of the movie was just okay at best, at least for me. Again, my interest wasn't in it. I wasn't involved. And I feel bad saying that because it was done well. It was directed well. The dialogue was hit or miss for me as well. There are some times I was very invested in that. There's other times I was just like, nah, I'm not there. So again, I hate to keep beating a dead horse, and I don't know whether it affects anything or not, of whether or not I read the books, but it was pacing, it was consistency, it was balance that I just didn't really see there. But I know a lot of people do. A lot of people think it was perfectly paced and perfectly balanced, and everything was just magically came together in one big rainbow glorified movie, which is fantastic for you. Again, art is subjective, so everyone's going to see this differently. But this is just my opinion. This is just how I saw it. I'm not saying this is how you need to see it. I'm just giving you my experiences, and that's all I'm trying to do. So if we want to have a mature conversation down in the comments and talk about our differences, what we may have liked or disliked about the movie in the comments, please let's do that. If you haven't already, please hit that like button and subscribe button on your way out if you haven't already. And I will see you at the concession stands.